Welcome to the Real Estate Women's Podcast. Thanks for pulling up a chair to our roundtable discussion. Here, we'll teach you how you can create a stream of passive income through multifamily investing, and we'll help you to shift your mindset so you can start living the life you really want to be living by design today.
Hello and welcome. We are the Real Estate Women. I'm Candy.
I'm Colleen.
I'm Tamara.
And I'm Crystal. Welcome to the Passive Investing Podcast. In today's episode, we want to touch a little bit about how investing in multifamily real estate can really change a person's life. Passive investment in real estate can be the perfect starting point to your goals of financial freedom for really whatever that may look like for you. And we thought, what better person to help chat with us about that other than Jennifer Barner for this episode. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our podcast.
Well, thank you so much. I am honored to be on today's podcast and excited to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So thank you for having me.
So before we get started, though, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a little bit about Jennifer here. Jennifer started her real estate career in November of 2015 when she leveraged her IRA to purchase and rehab 5 properties and wholesale and flip 6 others. Jennifer attributes much of her early success to her focus and the hiring of a business coach, which has led her to acquiring a substantial real estate portfolio and has given her family some financial freedom. Her early success created a desire to scale into larger projects and coach others into gaining financial freedom. She believes in changing communities one door at a time and has helped others change their lives by investing in real estate. To date, she has rehabbed 43 properties. She's a general partner of 477 doors with another 217 under contract in the Southeast. So, Jennifer, before investing in real estate, what did you do?
Before real estate, I was raising our 4 children. So I left corporate America when I had when I had my second child and realized I can't find childcare and realized that there's probably nobody better suited to raise my kids than myself. And so thankfully my husband had a good job that allowed me to have the luxury to stay at home and raise our children. So for the last 20 years, I have been raising our 4 children. And so I'm happy to announce that my firstborn daughter, has married and she's now out of the house. My second one is engaged. My third one just graduated from the University of Arkansas. And my fourth one is about to graduate from the University of Arkansas as well.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
So what led you into real estate? Why real estate?
Well, so I do have a degree in finance. And when the stock market crashed in 2008, it became very frustrating that our financial advisor never put any stops in to protect our nest egg. So we lost 50% of our nest egg. And I realized at that moment, nobody will take better care of our finances than ourselves. So I took our finances back over and I thought to myself that I needed to figure out what is another vehicle that would allow us to build our nest egg back up and be able to allow my husband to retire earlier than 65 if he desired, and just give us more options in life. I could see very clearly that although we were saving in a 529 education plan, it would never be enough to cover our 4 children. And from that, I was very blessed that I had a friend invite me to a Rich Dad conference. And at the moment, she had no earthly idea what Rich Dad was even about. Her husband signed her up and he couldn't go at the last minute. So she called me and asked me if I would go. And I said, well, I don't have anything going on this afternoon. My kids are still in school, so I'll go with you. And as soon as they mentioned cash flow and passive income and mailbox money, I was sold.
Yeah.
And so I went home from that conference. My girlfriend did not sign up. I did. And I signed my husband and I up for a 3-day conference at the Rich Dad event. And from there forward, I was sold. I said, this is our vehicle, and this is what we're going to use to get financially free. And so I say that because so many people have kids, and the rising costs of education
Mm-hmm.
expenses are astronomical. Compared to my
Mm-hmm.
first daughter that went through college and my last son is
Mm-hmm.
almost triple. It is almost triple.
Wow.
And
Wow.
because of that, and that's in 7 years. I had them all within 7 years. So that just shows you the burden that is, placed on families these days. And real estate has provided our kids to go through college debt free with no expenses, and to come out on the other side and be able to
That's
start
amazing.
life without, a backpack of debt on their back.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Now, when you
Thank
when
you.
you talked about learning about the real estate when you were at that convention, was that in regards to single family? Was that multifamily? What genre? Or were they just talking real estate in general?
Well, they originally said, and the woman that was standing before us, she said, listen, you could drop me in any city and I can make money immediately because I have the knowledge and education of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty bold to be able to say you could just be dropped off in any city anywhere and start making money. But she was really talking about the single family home, or you could wholesale. I mean, so, they talked about wholesaling single family, flipping properties all the way to commercial. But, when you're a brand new investor, you can't think even about commercial when you haven't even done a single family home.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think there's so much value in just getting a house under your belt and understanding what that process is like. And
Mm-hmm.
that first home I ever bought was so intimidating. It rattled me. I was scared to death. I had sweaty palms, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not doing what our financial advisor did, which is, I didn't want to lose our money. So it's
Right.
so important to educate yourself and make sure you have all the knowledge, and the worst case scenarios, right? I always say,
Mm-hmm.
know all the worst case scenarios before you go in. And can you stomach the worst case? And if you can, then you proceed forward, with just knowing,
Right.
okay, here's the upside, here's the potential downside. So,
Mm-hmm.
Candace, to your
Yes.
question, um, they gave you a broad general overview of real estate, but the
Mm-hmm.
goal was to sign us all up on
Right.
their 2 year plan. And of course, I got it, but I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I
Yeah.
didn't realize there were free resources out there at the time, like Bigger Pockets. Never even
Mhm.
heard of it.
Yeah.
I was brand new. So here somebody was offering me the ability to pay for an education, or I could go out there and fumble my way and lose money. So this opportunity over here just made more sense.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it's so important to remember that investing in yourself and investing in your education, even if it's not your typical, university or college, getting the education somewhere else. Of course, always be mindful of where the information is coming from. But I think it's so important to never stop learning, to always be there and ready to listen and take something in. So I think that's awesome. And what amazing luck. I mean, you must be so thankful for your girlfriend who offered you that ticket. What a game changer that was.
It was indeed.
So you touched upon
And
it
it
sounds like financial freedom too is really it's surrounded about your children not having that burden of the student debt on their back. So could you elaborate like what else that means to you and how real estate has really um, aided to that?
Yeah, I remember early on when our kids were young, my husband, he hit a few times in his career where he was really burnout, which I get. I mean,
Mhm.
I can only imagine how easy that is to feel that burden as a sole provider,
Mm-hmm.
and not really have any options. And so he came to me and he said, I really need to have 4 vacations a year, or I don't know that I can go the distance. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? How in the world are we have a family of 6, going to take 4 vacations a year? I mean, that's just not feasible, right? So I just
Right.
kind of brushed it under the rug, but I did file it away, and I thought, okay, how could we one day create the life? So I started to visualize, okay, what does that look like? How could we get to 4 vacations a year? And so the beautiful thing about real estate is if you write down your goals and if you keep working towards those, you can get there. And so it's been such a blessing and a reward to show my family and our kids, look at all
Mm.
these things that, mom was writing down and goals that I had. And now we've been able to check these off one by one and being able to take vacations when we want, with whomever we want, how we want to do those, and has really become a luxury. So when you're talking about freedom, for me, it was being able to give my husband that ability to take
Mm.
trips when he needed, and just give him an outlet, right? But it's been become way more than that for all of
Sure.
our family. Now we're dreaming bigger. I mean, I always joke. My financial advisor, the very first one we ever had, he said, "Jennifer, what do you want in life?" And this is how narrow and small thinking I was. I said, "I just want two pear trees in my backyard."
Oh.
That was my answer. I never could think. I mean, we did. I came from a parents that were raised in the Great
Sure.
Depression. They had nothing,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so for growing up, it was always, Jennifer, do you need that? If you don't need it, we're not buying it. So for
Mhm.
Yeah.
me,
Mhm.
financial freedom is the ability not to have to say, do you really need that? That's what financial freedom is to me, is being able to say, you know what? We can afford for you to have a pack of gum or whatever it is, right? And so real estate has just really blessed our lives in so many ways. It's been life changing, truly.
I love,
And I
love the
can
fact. Oh, I'm
definitely,
sorry.
no, it's
I
okay. Go
love the
ahead.
fact that well, first of all, I want to commend you on breaking that. If you think about it, it's a generational chain that holds us in our financial positions. And congratulations for the courage to rethink that, not dismiss it, acknowledge it, but
Mhm.
say, I don't have to live that way anymore, and break that chain.
Yeah.
And look what you've done for your family. So congratulations on that. That's a very large undertaking. I just want
Mhm.
to say that. And also, what I hear you talking about is that, and we don't realize it until we know it, that a lot of times we're just living life by default. We're not planning. And you talked
Mhm.
about financial freedom, and you talked about, how will that look to have 4 vacations? When you see the end goal, you can take your steps backwards. Well, what can I do to get there, and take those baby steps? So you didn't get your 4 vacations that year, it sounds like, from you with
Right.
your husband, but now you're there. And that, because you kept that goal in mind, and then you just pivot and
Mm-hmm.
redirect and rethink, and have, basically, if you think about it, I don't like the word strategy, but it's used a lot in our field.
Mhm.
You have like an exit strategy. How I'm going to exit the way that I live my life now to begin the new life that I would like to live.
Mm-hmm. That is so powerful. And you're
Which is
right.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I would definitely say I noticed a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, the rich dad, thoughts in the way you were saying that. Like when your husband said the 4 vacations, like, yes, you may have filed it away right away, but you immediately thought, not, I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? And that's very much like the rich dad way. You never say, no, I can't, but it's about how can I make it happen? What can I do to get there? And that is so awesome. That says a lot to your mindset, that you were never defeated by the fact that you couldn't do it right away, but ready to see how to make it happen. So that is awesome. And I will say another thing that it seems you're definitely doing is, helping others find their financial freedom and reach that goals for them. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you like to do to help others kind of get started and create their goal and their path to financial freedom?
Yeah. So I started my own coaching program a couple years ago with the intent of helping others get freedom for themselves as well. And subsequently, I've also become a coach for another mentor that is well and near and dear to all of our hearts.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to be able to give back and share the lessons we've learned. Um, I've
Mhm.
also started a meetup years ago, and I try to just pour into anybody that asks, you know,
Mhm.
with no expectations that they're going to sign up for a coaching program. It's really to say, hey, there are other options in life. If you feel like you're really
Mhm.
strapped, then maybe real estate is an option for you. And let's talk through some of those options and figure out which one may be best for you and your family.
You talk about
Nice.
um, starting your coaching and spreading kind of to help spread the word. I mean that's how this podcast came about.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
particularly for myself walking along and even on the dog walks on the beach. People I've never met before ask me what I do, and then I start explaining investing in multifamily. They just look at me and they're like their heads kind of turn like the dogs do when they like hear a sound that they don't know. And it
Totally.
really surprised me how few people really know that this is available to ordinary people like ourselves. Because we think of this as being very large corporation that you can't touch. It's like an entity that no one, even though it's run by people, it's just like this large entity that is just so distant. And in fact, when you actually learn more about it, it's just a group of people like ourselves that run that corporation that make it possible for ordinary people to invest in. And I love the fact of thinking about, for myself, and I also people that out there listening that have their first homes. That is your stepping stone. That is if you learn
Mhm.
about how you can leverage what you already have, and leverage referring to you could get a line of credit, you can get remortgage the house and get cash back. There's many scenarios in that, and educate yourself on that to then be able to take that and invest that and have your money growing for you twice. And that's like to be able to get that financial freedom. Can you share a little bit of like maybe some high and lows that you had in whether it be in passive investing or in just in real estate in general, so that people have a sense of like when you talk about what you're willing to endure, what some of those things may be, because people that may not necessarily have real estate just yet, they don't have that experience, so they don't know.
Yeah. So you brought up several points that I
Yeah.
could share. But to your point, leveraging your existing home is huge. And I never knew about that.
Mhm.
And I think about how many people go to college and they get a business degree or get a or excuse me, a finance degree. I never learned anything about real estate, which is mind boggling, right? To think that they never even tap on that or even expose you a little bit to it. So it was very, very a new concept when I went to the Rich Dad program and they explained that you could get a heat lock, which is a home equity line of credit on your home. So I went to my local bank and I asked him if I could pull a line of credit on my home. And so what they do is they look at how much equity do you have in the home, and then they'll give you up to 60% in a lot of cases. Now, I don't know with the market the way it is today, if that's still the
Mhm.
case. So you obviously want to check with your local banker and see what kind of
Yeah.
line of credit they'll give you. But think about being able to take 60% of your money and then go apply that and buy a new home, or go buy a home and rehab it and then sell it, and then you return your money, your home equity line of credit back, but then you've created this profit for yourself. And so
Mhm.
now you leverage your home equity line of credit and your profit, and you go do it again, and then you pay yourself back, and your profit just continues to get a little bit more, and you're just building up the pot over here, so that one day you can go invest it in a multifamily asset like you're talking about, Candace, and now you're getting distributions off of
Mhm.
that asset that you've invested in. And that's what I did. Now there were some times where the assets didn't make as much money, and
Mhm.
or I can tell you some of the problems I ended up with is I used my IRA to buy several homes. Well, the goal was I was going to buy them outright with cash, and then I was going to pull out the equity on them and then rinse
Mhm.
and repeat. Well, I bought homes that were too old. They were 1900 to 1930 homes.
Mhm.
And so they were in the inner city, and it was an area that was really up and coming. And I thought this was a great time to get into this market, this particular sub market. And unfortunately, they were either too old or they were too small. So I had homes that were 870 square feet, 890 square feet, and the cutoff is 900 square feet. So I have 5 homes that are purchased outright that I can't pull the money back out. The only way to get my money out of them is to sell them. But they're in
So,
such
yes.
appreciating areas that, they paid for themselves, from the renters and the appreciation that I'm sitting golden, and they're just going to become a legacy for my family. But I would be able to pull the equity. I mean, if I could be able to pull the equity out of those and then go buy more homes, I would just be that much further along. So those are some examples of something that I would caution, when you're using your IRA to purchase anything, kind of know that there's limits, because there's only one banker that will actually partner with IRAs. So you need to know who they are in your state and then find out the rules before you go buy an asset using your IRA. But as far as the home equity line of credit, it's such a beautiful tool. Now, when you're going to a down market like we are, you just need to be extra careful, because what if the home doesn't sell? Now you've got this home equity line of credit and you're paying interest on this. And now you've got this property. Now, the hope is that you could burr out of it. So you could put a loan on it and get your money, most of it, back out. But, again, before you're buying anything in this kind of a market, you want to make sure you run through all of those strategies and make sure you know what the rent is in that home before you buy it, and what you could what you could refinance out of it at. I mean, go through all of those scenarios to make sure you don't put yourself in a very crippling position. So that would be my advice for people.
Yeah.
That's good advice to always have a plan A, B, and C. So that's definitely of a huge
One
value.
little tidbit I
And
wanted to add into that before, I'm sorry, Crystal, to interrupt you again.
no, it's fine.
Um, and in all of that, when you're researching and when you're doing that type of deep dive to see if the HELOC is something that works for you, and all of that, always talk to people that, whether if there are people around you that have never done this before, don't talk to them for advice, because they don't know. Would you go to do you go to, a banker to ask them how to pour the foundation for your house? No, you go and you
Right.
talk to a mason or someone that's licensed to do that. People are always very willing to give, particularly I find with real estate, very willing to give free advice that have never done it before. So if you don't know how to do these strategies, if you don't know how to think about it, go to local meetups. Just type in the meetup.com and you can find real estate, and you can find in your local area, whether it's virtual, in person, find people who've done it, and they will, I mean, look at us. We love talking about real estate. People will be more than willing to share you their ups and their downs and all of that. So I just wanted to add that little bit in there, because you're not alone if you're out there listening and you really want to do it, but you've never done it before. You are surrounded now that you know it exists. You just look for it, and there everything will blossom right in front of you. I'm sorry, Crystal, go ahead.
No, it's fine. That's a great point, because a lot of people, the whole reason we started this, a lot of people don't know where to look and where to get the information. So that's a great point. What I was going to mention was something that you had mentioned, Jennifer. Like, you were buying and kind of buying, to kind of going to that burst strategy to kind of build up that nest egg for you. And then at what point would you kind of, if you were to give advice to somebody that was maybe starting, they had that small nest egg, and they wanted to grow it, but they were really more looking for that passive income. A lot of our listeners may be people like busy professionals that don't necessarily have the time and available freedom. But at what point would you say like that nest egg is ready to go into something like a passive investment in multifamily real estate? Or would you kind of advise growing a little more? What would your advice be kind of on that section? Like, when is a good time to invest passively?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think, so my daughter, she bought a duplex, and she saved up money and put 3% down, used her FHA loan, and bought a
Yep.
duplex. And then when her husband, or when her fiance proposed to her, I said, well, you've got to buy a duplex too before you buy, marry my wife or marry my
That's
daughter,
exactly what my
marry my
husband
daughter.
and I did.
Yes, yes, it's such a great strategy.
Literally, like,
So
so great strategy.
yeah, so he went and bought
Yeah.
one, and then two of those doors though were just crippling them because they were very time intensive. And so I can tell you, four was enough doors, and it was just two duplexes. I think as
Nice.
long as you get a door under your belt, and you know what, if you're a busy professional, I don't think you need to go into single family, but I think you do need to have some level of education
Education. Yeah.
and
I agree.
and some kind of rapport with whoever your sponsor is or whoever the syndicator is, to make sure you trust them and that you feel like confident that they know what they're doing before you go invest with them. But I don't think as a busy a W-2 employee, I don't think they ever have to really go into single family. If they're looking for a place to preserve their capital and to grow it and to create net wealth for themselves, I think moving straight over to multifamily it's a perfect time. There's no better time than now because of rising. Yeah,
Yeah.
when interest rates rise, rents rise, and so this is a perfect time to get in.
I just want to interject for those listening that have not really heard sponsor and syndication and what that has to do with real estate, that those are just members of the team of the corporation, basically, that owns that multifamily that you'll be talking with, like us, like sitting in a room with us on a Zoom call or just maybe in person. So that's those are just positions, and the syndicator is a person that brings you as an investor to the deal. So just to break that down a little bit.
Yes. I absolutely love though that you had your daughter's fiance go out and purchase that other multifamily, utilize that 3.5% down. That is so great. So awesome. I love that. And I'm glad to hear that he was obviously on board.
Yeah, thankfully he
Awesome.
was on board as well.
Nice. Now, have all of your children kind of begun and dabbled a little bit here and there in real estate, obviously seeing your success, or have some kind of gone through their own path, or just maybe passively invest?
Yeah, so my firstborn has also been passively investing in our assets. And my thirdborn, my son,
That's
just
awesome.
joined me in the business. So he just did his
Okay.
first flip and listed it on the market last week and has a buyer. So really excited because we really didn't know going into this market,
Uh-huh.
especially around the holidays. It always tends to
Yes.
dip. But the fact is, there's still buyers out there looking for good homes. And
Yeah.
so, this was, now we haven't closed yet. So,
Oh, right.
we still have a
Yeah.
month, but hopefully they'll still be able to get to closing, and this will be a happy story to report.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
I'm really excited that my son is joining me. It's really something I've always dreamt of. Ever since I started
That's
building this
awesome.
business, I've been telling my kids for years that I'm building this company, that one day I hope one of you will take over and you can continue it. And this will be your legacy. This is what we're giving to you. So my third born has stepped up and he's helping me now.
Oh my God, that's so great.
That's
Yeah.
so
So
exciting.
great.
That's awesome.
True generational wealth.
Truly.
So, Jennifer, if our listeners want to learn more about you, how would they reach you?
They can they can reach out to me at my email. It's Jennifer at lighthouse ventures, and that's plural with an S.com. They can always text me as well. I don't mind giving out my mobile number. It's 913-481-8221.
Awesome. So, to add a little bit of fun, we like to end each podcast where we have a thought provoking quote of the day, and we have three cards. I have three cards here, 1 through 3, for you to pick whichever number comes to mind.
Oh, let's go with number
Drum
3.
roll.
Number 3. Okay. So It costs nothing to think bigger than you are, but costs a fortune to think less of yourself. And that's by Ollie Daniel. So we're going deep, I
I
guess,
love
on that
that.
one. So
I love that.
awesome. So could you elaborate on like how does that like how do you think this applies to like what we're talking about here today?
Will you read it back to me one more time?
Sure, I had a feeling you might say that. So it costs nothing to think bigger than you are, but costs a fortune to think less of yourself.
I love that quote. I think every time we allow opportunities go by, that we're saying to ourselves that we're not capable. And we are
Mm,
so capable of taking on much bigger things than we ever dreamt possible. And you know, we've all heard the saying that comfort um, or growth comes outside your comfort zone, right?
mhm,
Every time we choose not to get outside of our comfort zone, we're saying that we're not capable, and we lower our own self confidence. And I just think that we should each try to get uncomfortable every day. You know, put yourself out there, because that's where growth happens. And every day we should be challenging ourselves and believing
mhm.
in ourselves, and we'll strengthen that muscle of I can and I'm worth it, right?
So change the
Yep.
little voice.
Yep.
That little voice that's
Mm-hmm.
within all of our in between our ears and change the thought process and then you'll change your life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's definitely an awesome view on that quote. I really like that. And I love the advice of getting out of your
Mhm.
comfort zone. Get a little uncomfortable every day. I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
give myself a sticky note. Have you been uncomfortable today? I really like that.
Exactly.
Uh,
Because even with
and
that,
it's
about the
funny. I think,
comfort, you think bigger, like that you need to be like at an event or somewhere or like at a conference instead of like every single day, you could apply that to your life. And that's awesome
yep,
advice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially in this space too of multifamily, it's so easy to let yourself think that you just can't do it, right? Because these are we're talking millions of dollars sometimes, and you're just like, how is that possible?
Right.
But it really is, and it's all about your mindset and how you think about it and what you perceive things to be and what you allow yourself to think you can do. If you don't think you can do it, you're not going to do it.
yep.
So true. When I think about it too,
It's
is
true.
like comfort. Um, this is very comforting. I like to think of food when I think of comfort. Um, and discomfort, it's like, ew, I don't like chewing on it, having a piece of sand and something I'm chewing on. That's uncomfortable. But when you think about your comfort zone and taking action, it can't be, it's where our brains are naturally, fear is it's just wired into our brain. And
Right.
what we have to realize is that we have to identify the feeling of fear and break that down a little bit to understand the discomfort is that we don't know. And because we don't know, that's what makes the discomfort. It's not that it's a fearful thing like a dinosaur at the door that you have to run from and say, no, just run between its legs and you'll be okay. It's not that kind of fear. It's just, I've never done this before. I don't know the outcome. Therefore, I
Mhm.
can take baby steps and not just dive into the deep end and think I'm going to learn how to swim. Some maybe do and some can.
Right.
I'm not necessarily that kind of a risk taker, but definitely am a risk taker. And it takes, like, I don't know. Let me educate myself so that I can take those steps. And putting all of those little tiny pieces together is what makes it change. I hear you have that action of this quote in your life by just contemplating how could we do 4 vacations? What would that look like? It's
Mhm.
not that you're leaping in and making 4 reservations somewhere and putting yourself in financial risk. It's
Right.
Yeah.
the thought, how can I, what would that look like? And then the path literally begins to unfold. And I think you showed that throughout this entire interview, how you even got into real estate, thinking about you were thinking about your planning your future for your family, like what could we do? And the phone rings and your friend is telling you about this rich dad, poor dad
Mhm.
convention, which is just like, the thought, and then you have the doors start to open. You just have to be open enough and have your eyes open to see those opportunities. So, wow, this has been so amazing, Jennifer. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's just exciting.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, I can I
Yes.
share one more thing?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. So I've recently signed up for this brainathon, and it's neuro. Uh, I'm describing it wrong, but it's to help you identify your limiting beliefs within you.
Mm,
And so they're called inner size. You listen to it every day. It's a meditation. It's going into your subconscious. And the very first one that I ever listened to, it was talking about you're in a desert and you're crossing it, and all of a sudden you realize you have no water bottles, you have nothing left, and you're wondering why you even decided to walk to the next town because your car ran out of gas. Why didn't you go backwards to the previous town? And so you're doubting yourself, and all of a sudden you trip over a cactus and it sticks you in the finger and you start bleeding, and you're like, oh my goodness. And then it dawns on you, cactus have water in them. So you cut
mm,
open the cactus and you quench your thirst. And then you realize to yourself, how many cactus have I tripped over, or how many have I went around on my way to my
Wow.
destiny? And so it's then that
Mm.
you think, wait a minute, and you look back and you realize, look at all those opportunities I had behind me that I passed by, and look at all of them in front of me that I still have in front of me. And so
Mhm.
it's really to realize that we have opportunities all around us every day.
Mhm.
And it's up to us to get uncomfortable and ask for help, or to make a phone call to a bank, or get the courage up
Mhm.
to call somebody more successful, and make yourself a little vulnerable, be
Mhm.
humble. But it's okay to reach up, because I can tell you, people that are up, they love helping people. They don't want to see you stuck down at the bottom of the barrel. They want to help you get up and see the freedom and life that exists above where you're standing today. So anyway, it's just
thank you.
it's been
Love it.
mind-boggling to hear that example.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
That is really great. That is so good because you think like, oh my gosh, could things possibly get any worse? I'm stuck, I'm bleeding, but really having the mindset of looking at things differently, which is, very much like relates to that quote, the cost, it could cost you a
Mhm.
fortune to not think bigger. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That is so great.
Beautiful,
Of
beautiful.
course.
Well, Jennifer, we have run out of time. This has been fantastic, and thank you so much, and thank you to our listeners for joining us. I hope you all got just as much out of this as I did. And I just wanted to say, if you want to learn more, you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, or visit us at therealestatewomen.com. And again, thank you so much, Jennifer, for empowering us all.
Yes.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Jennifer.
much.
Thank you.
I had such a
Thank you.
blast.
It's been awesome.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Until
Till
next
next time.
time.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not licensed professionals and do not give investment advice, tax advice, or other professional advice. Please consult a licensed professional before making any financial decisions.